Hello, this is What I've Been Thinking, Young Black Leaders Forum, and I'm your host, Marcus Cage, and I am here with my lovely co host, Harut. The other guests will be filing in soon. So, in the meantime, how have things been going with you, Harut?
It's been all right. Been keeping busy. Still trying to find work, so that's what I've been up to for the most part.
Yeah, I understand how that is, especially in this time. You have so many people who are out of work, and it doesn't seem like most of the systems or most of the I guess people in charge are trying to do anything to facilitate, other kind of jobs programs or ways where even like the unemployment office, or they can just streamline it where people can get their claims through faster. I mean, I'm not sure how it's going in your neck of the woods, but I've been hearing horrible stories about how, some people have literally called over 800 times in one day, just trying to get through to the unemployment office.
Well, I live in New York, so their unemployment apparatuses are a little bit more streamlined. I do everything online. Now the amount I could complain about because it's not much to live off of. But like like I wouldn't even call it surviving. I rely mostly on my credit card, so that hasn't been fun. Um, the thing is, though, they're really starting to like pull back the amount, not even just the amount of unemployment that we're getting or the monetary amount, but they really want to get people into the workforce and whatever work that they can get them in. And I think the people that are especially suffering the most are the people with children because, like in New York, for example, they had to postpone opening schools. I'm assuming just because they're not quite sure how ready they are in terms of like is are we going to be in a position where like if the kids go back to schools, they're going to be spreading around coronavirus? And I mean, we've seen that in other parts of the country that yes, this is the case, but New York has been trying its best um, to keep their numbers low. Now, in terms of like the government doing that, that's one thing. I don't think they're providing enough PPE for teachers. Like in the hospitals, it was really bad. They were running out of protective gear for doctors and things. But like New Yorkers as a whole, I think we've all been trying our best, and we've been trying to stick to the laws that have been put in. But I feel like if things start up again, it might be starting up too soon. I think didn't we recently reach 1 million coronavirus deaths worldwide? And they're saying that although the numbers may not show it, and the official numbers may not show it, we probably have reached more than 200,000 deaths from coronavirus in the US alone. So I don't, do I feel ready and safe to go into the workforce? No, but I mean, we all have to do what we have to do. And it's unfortunate that in this country it's become that because if you look at countries like France, where they're already giving everyone 80% of the paycheck and they're waiting until after the coronavirus um, completely dies down to start to be pushing workers to go back to work. So it's just like we see that happening for other people in other countries, and then we call ourselves the greatest country in the world. And I mean, I grew up knowing that was not true, and I'm sure other people did too. But like to me, this makes it obvious, but people are still living in that blindness, living in that naivete, I guess.
I mean, I understand how you feel. It's frustrating because I feel like we try to do our best to try to educate people about the things that we see that are going on in the community, that we should all be focused on and trying to push for. And it seems like it's fell on deaf ears for so long that now
Yeah.
the situation has gotten so bad that even when we are fighting for causes, it feels like such an uphill battle because even if we get a little bit of movement in this one area, we still have this area and this area and this area and this area where it almost, to me, it almost feels at times kind of like that old kind of I guess story about somebody trying to plug a dam, and they start off with one finger, another finger, and next thing you know, all their fingers and toes are plugging the dam, and then you know, it's still leaking holes. And so I kind of feel like at this point, uh, because I don't see that we can actually organize. I don't know. I guess I feel a little bit pessimistic with what I've been seeing because especially even on the left, um, we're so divided on so many smaller issues instead of saying, hey, let's just push this one major boulder first, and everybody's splitting off into their own categories. And I'm not saying that this cause isn't a righteous cause or that cause isn't a righteous cause, but what I'm trying to say is, hey, if we focus on this one thing right here, this might be able to help all of our causes more, and we're putting that energy towards, that one shot because when we're a large mass disorganized, of course, we can affect a lot of change. And if we're all on our separate individual, initiatives and we can't come together on something, one large major initiative, and it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying an amalgam of a gazillion different ideas. I'm saying just all together behind, maybe if it's, say some kind of debt relief program or whatever it may be. I'm just saying, in I feel like that's where we should probably be focusing more. And everybody, we're just a bunch of sheep kind of running around, lost, I feel.
I mean, I wouldn't say sheep. I just think it's kind of overwhelming to want change in a system like ours that is so messed up. Like, you can't just, it's easier to focus on specific issues and not challenge the system as a whole because we're challenging the system, we're challenging everything. We're challenging federal, state, local governments. We're challenging the Constitution as a whole. And honestly, the Constitution is something that we should be challenging in its entirety because who created it? It was a bunch of slave owners. And one thing that I have learned is that the only reason there isn't any white supremacy in our Constitution is because the founding fathers didn't think it was necessary, because they didn't think we'd come up to the position that we are in now. So if people aren't thinking like this and they're not challenging the Constitution in itself, which is not maybe a living document, but is an unholy document. Okay, no, it's not an unholy document. It's a document that was created by a group of people that wouldn't have no idea how to deal with America's situation as it is right now.
They would have had some ideas. We wouldn't have liked them though.
Oh yeah, of course, but like that's the point. Like that's absolutely the point.
How you feeling, Marcus? I had to run in here. I had to scramble in a little bit. I've got Sundays are a very busy day for me. Every day is a busy day for me. What are we talking about?
I understand. I'm just glad. I'm glad to have you here. I feel like you always add to the discussion, and it's so good. And then with having just me and Harut here in the beginning, being able to let her let her expound on a couple of things, I felt like it set the good mood for the course of the conversation. So I'm just ready to flow on the issues. I know that we got a gazillion things that we could talk about. And so I figure, a couple of the three big topics that I figure are going on right now. Of course, we have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her passing. And so we'll have to talk about that and, rest in peace to her. I don't wish any ill will towards, towards the poor old woman or her family. And I understand most of what goes on is all going to be looked at through a political lens. So I guess that's what we're kind of look at the ramifications and what do we think, how that's going to go on. I know that, I know some people will still be grieving and stuff with the situation, but we're going to try to talk about that a little bit. And then I wanted to talk about the two town halls. What did you all think of the Trump town hall and the Biden town hall, and the goods, the bads, and the terribly ugly of both? I guess Harut, what do you think on the Ruth Bader Ginsburg first?
I think that well, her death is going to be used by both parties to push their candidate, of course, to get that seat. I don't know. I mean, there have been enough Republicans out here that are trying to stop the vote until after the election, but at the same time, you know, when they need to, the Republican Party gets the fire under the butts of these senators, and we saw that with Kavanaugh. I guess we're going to have to see what happens there. Honestly, I still think that a Republican is going to end up in that seat. That's my opinion. I've been like arguing with people on Twitter about it, and they're just like, oh well, they're going to like the Democrats are going to start like trying to pack the court, which in my study of like previous attempts at doing that, it's a very unpopular thing to do, and I don't think that they're going to end up doing that. I think they're just going to keep fighting for that seat. But I mean, think about how her dying is affecting us now. There's a chance that Roe v. Wade might be overturned, and that's something that's very scary for women like me who like use places like Planned Parenthood just to go to. That's our way of going to the doctor, and the possibility of having abortions become, illegal again. I mean, in a lot of states it already is, and the access to it is already been minimized. So to see that happening everywhere in the country is another scary thing. But also, I don't want to criticize, but I do want to criticize because she could have stepped down under the Obama administration. She had already had a bit of cancer with that, and we could have had someone like Kagan or Sotomayor there today who was healthy and could have been able to do it. So maybe it's something we need to look at in terms of like, should we have term limits, or should someone's health be looked into, and should that possibly put something in like term limits for being on the Supreme Court? I mean, there's a lot that we could talk about there, and I'll just stick to what I said now. And in terms of the town halls, I've been avoiding all that stuff. I'm probably gonna end up watching the debate because like I should keep up with it, but I'm tired of it all, to be frank. Like I don't know. I can't. It's mentally taxing to me to see what I've been seeing as a whole. So I'll take that in, but in terms of watching the town halls, I don't feel like I can do that right now.
What about you, Brad? Oh, you're on mute.
When it comes to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it's hard to talk about the political fallout without pointing out the obvious, that clinging on to that job for 4 more years because you had a photo op in mind of you handing the reins off and Hillary Clinton being president and you getting like a go-girl is one of the most selfish things that a human being in the history of the country has ever done. There is no way you can point it. What about David Souter? What about this? What about that? It's so hard to get a woman into that seat, and all this, whatever it is. There's no good rationalization, because anybody who's watching this, if you were a black person, you were the only black person in 100 years to be on the Supreme Court, and the situation was what the situation was back then, there would not even be a moral calculus about stepping down, because you would be thinking about the people who are affected by that position of power that you're in, more than you'd be thinking about your own personal like satisfaction, accomplishments, professional gratification. If you are any kind of law person, a lawyer worth your salt, the whole point of the legal system allegedly is to be in service of the people, allegedly. So if you are supposed to be one of the nation's highest jurists and you've got, a legal code, you would think that would be your priority. I don't even think that needs further evaluation or discussion. Like, it's so just flat on its face. Anybody who has any other objection to pointing that out is just deflecting. And you can say, what about this other guy? When you were a kid, and you did something wrong and your mama pointed out that you were wrong, but what about across the street? Why didn't, like, I am not, as parent, you are responsible for your own actions. That's something that we teach children. So the idea that there are grown people with huge Twitter followings pretending that this is not true at all is ridiculous. The same people who complain day and night about someone running for president and being old and that being irresponsible, when really, in comparison to a Supreme Court justice where power literally changes hands to a different political party based on your ability to fill that position, like, come on, it's absurd. And everybody else in the game understands what the game is. How old is Brett Kavanaugh? He's like 40. How old is Alito? He's like 50. How old is Roberts? He's like in his late 40s. Just over and over again, these are like appointments that are clearly made with the realistic political situation in mind. Whereas it seems like on this other side, Obama nominates Merrick Garland, who's in his 60s, as it is already, an old guy and a moderate at that. When you look at Nancy Pelosi, you ask her, hey, are you going to shut the government down if this really means something to you? The Republicans shut down the government over like credit default debt payments that were already signed to and promised the year before. The debt limit. Do y'all remember the debt limit? They were like, we got to close everything down. Sorry, grandma, your Social Security checks are not coming because we are determined. And that's nothing. That's like paying a bill that you already spent the money for. Imagine if you went to a restaurant and ate and then they gave the bill and you were like, what is this? I'm on a budget. You tore that receipt up. That's literally what they did.
And it's funny because all they had to do was print a little
Right.
bit more money and they'd be able to put money in people's pockets.
And they asked Pelosi, what are you doing? She's like, go vote. Don't boo. They went to Biden where it's like, well, if nothing happens, this Republican gets on, are you going to use your power as the nation's chief executive to maybe like add some Supreme Court justice? Biden's like, hell no, we're not going to do I'm not going to do a damn thing. And part of that is, yes, packing the court historically is very unpopular. Whenever, FDR was like the most popular president in American history. And when he tried to do it, people were like, whoa, hold up a minute. But I'll say unpopularity has never stopped Republicans from getting power. You think this Daily Show, Jon Stewart bullshit, where they play the clip of Lindsey Graham in like a year and a half ago and they play the clip of him now, that Jon Stewart routine, that's going to get people to really stop anything? No. They'll be like, well, you got me. And Lindsey Graham is going to go on, if he loses this election, to a very comfortable, highly paid life because he's out here trying to get the W. And who is trying to get the W on the other side? Not they're playing hall monitor, and these other people are playing for life and death. It's really shocking. It's not shocking, but
Well, I always kind of look at the Republicans they're playing the part of, instead of Harlem Globetrotters, the world Globetrotters, because they're just trotting all over the world doing whatever they want. And the Democrats are the Washington Generals. They're just tripping over themselves, pretending like they're trying to win. They'll score a bucket here and there. But in the end, they always lose.
You can't do that. That's illegal. You can't bounce the ball off my skull like that. What are you doing? We agreed before the game started that you would not do these tricks, and you're doing them. It's like, listen, it's Harlem Globetrotters. What did you expect?
I mean, they have no spine or no backbone, just in my opinion. I watch Republicans constantly do stuff over and over. Now, the one thing I have noticed that they've done is they've taken the Republicans' tactic towards elections. Well, in two ways. Trying to shut down voters. What they've been doing with the Green Party. Trying to shut down a lot of their ballot access and lawsuits and all kind of stuff like that. They've done that. And the other thing that they've done is they took the fear route. Republicans always used to be, if the Democrats take charge, this and this and this is going to happen, and it's going to be Stalin, Hitler. They've always said that stuff. I mean, going back, 50, 60 years. Republicans have always said that. Now Democrats have finally taken on the same type of messaging. And I'm not saying Trump is not a horrible president. I'm not saying that he's not dangerous or reckless, but throughout our lifetime, I can't remember a president which has not been dangerous or reckless. All of them are dangerous and reckless. It's just a matter of how the news media wants to frame it and what they want to show you. And what's really happening, I see, is the people at the top levels of government, because they don't have as much control and sway in being able to shame the person, in their fear, they're permeating their fear down into the voter base. And a lot of I feel like people who aren't as engaged are feeding off of that same fear mentality. I mean, I don't know what it's going to lead to, but, it's something I've been watching out for.
Yeah, listen. The Democrats genuinely believe that like everything was above board and by the rules until Trump got in. They were like asleep during Bush. They were asleep during Reagan. They were asleep during Gingrich. Really, all of this, like, if we want to be like really nerdy about it, all this shit goes back to Bork when Reagan like nominated that dude in like quid pro quo for backing Nixon and was like, yeah, Nixon, do what you got to do, seize power by any means, and I'll reward you. And Reagan came in and was like, I will fulfill this reward so that all Republicans know we're at war right now and you do whatever you want to do. And that nomination got blocked and they've been fighting over that ever since. It's really like incredible to me to what degree these folks are going in to block the Green Party rather than like going to compete with the Green Party. Go on TV and talk about why you shouldn't vote for the Green Party. Go talk about Howie Hawkins' level of experience versus Joe Biden, whatever it is. But they don't really have anything to offer those voters, and they don't want to. They want to make sure that those people vote but are given nothing. And we say that on Twitter all the time, but that like literally is the strategy. Because they're like, listen, we need you to vote, but also you're a small enough group that I'm not going to give you anything, but you're a large enough group that if this goes wrong, I will blame you. Which in no world is like isn't an appropriate, way to vote. And the people who aren't voting in the country are not, and unfortunately we're in a Twitter world where, everything is, there's a rich white man and they're privileged. And that's the only way you can have a conversation on Twitter now is by comparing your stat points to whoever you're arguing with. When really the people who are not voting are black people, they're poor people, they're women, they're disengaged from the political process because nobody is doing shit for them. And they know that things will be the same no matter what happens. So why stand in line for 3 hours on a Tuesday during your work, which, by the way, your job is not going to just let you go to vote on Tuesday. They're going to be like, listen, this is a work day, dude. And you think you're going to get in there and do some civic duty stuff, getting up at 6 a.m. or whatever. Good luck. What really happens is you show up at like 4:30 and the line goes out for like 5 hours and then they're like, stay in line, stay in line. Nobody's going to do that for Joe Biden, I don't think. I'll be surprised. And listen, who built that system? Both parties built that system. And like a handful of people voting for the Green Party or whatever is not the problem. The problem is when there's actual things that can like make a material impact and can rally people to your side. You don't do it because you are still watching The West Wing and you think that The West Wing is real life and you get your justice and I get my justice and we swap like that and it's all fine. The Republicans never watch The West Wing. They live in the real world and they are here to break kneecaps and seize and execute political power. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, watching Biden talk about, well, I'm from the Senate and we don't change the rules and just being completely ineffective. And forget the left. The last thing I'll add is forget about, quote unquote, the left in these discussions. Regular ass people who aren't engaged with politics at all don't like weakness. Like when they see somebody like doing that Joe Biden, John Kerry stuff, they think that dude won't even stick up for himself. Like that dude's gonna stick up for my life and my body and my children. Probably not. know, Obama was not like a really rough operator, but he would at least make fun of these people. He would at least mock, like it was out of that Daily Show, whatever. But he would punch back against this. He would be vocal about it. And with this other thing, like, have you no decency, sir? What's going on? Like, it's not going to work with anybody that lives in the real world.
I'm like, what are you in the 1912s, buddy? Come on.
I feel like he's trying to like get a glove and challenge somebody to a duel. And
Honestly, I wish he would. That would be more entertaining.
I'd be more into it than what we've seen. And I didn't watch the town halls. I did watch like extensive highlights from both. You know, I spent like 7 minutes, like some clips from both of them. And I'll kick it back to you, but the crowd seemed much easier on Biden. I think part of that is just because Trump has been bald-faced lying for 4 years. So like, it's not necessarily that the crowd is hostile to him. It's that this crowd is pointing out obvious things that exist outside the Trump bubble. And I do wonder, like, when he goes and does this debate, will the moderators like ask him some of these obvious questions that the town hall perhaps touched on but didn't really go into? And will there be follow-ups? To like, we're leaving the place of like, we can have a neutral debater that, like, if you're actually operating on facts, how can you do that and be 50-50 with Trump and Biden? It would be nice for them to call Biden on his mess too, but like anybody that's objective, you're probably going to come down on Trump harder just because.
Well, I mean, I think it depends, because if you're Black, like, I feel like you should be coming after Biden more, just because a lot of his policies have been directly detrimental to the Black community. And I feel like we just come out and we're expected to vote Democrat because that's how it's been for a couple of generations. But like, why aren't we calling them out? Why aren't we calling out Biden for trying to cut Social Security and to like completely get rid of it for 40 years? Like, why isn't that? I mean, I understand that, you know, what you're saying before, Marcus, you're not saying Trump is a good guy, and no one is saying that, but Biden isn't one either. So
if I can answer, I'd say I think it's the age divide. A lot of the older Black voters, they've been just so accustomed to knowing these people, and they've become familiar with them, you know, kind of more in a personality base, without actually looking into their policies and realizing that they're responsible for, you know, when they had to go bail their grandson out of prison on some kind of trumped up charges, they didn't realize Biden is part of the reason why that happened. They didn't realize when they were getting this cut or that cut, that had to do with some grand bargain which Clinton was doing back in the day.
They know. They know. No,
they don't know.
Marcus. They know. They know everything that you know about. You think that old Black people don't know about old white people being shady, Marcus? They know that everything that we are out here talking about. I've never had a conversation with an old Black person where I point these things out and they're like, "Is that true? I refuse to believe that. Can you show me documentation?"
Well, I'm talking about the ones that vote.
They know.
I mean, I feel like they probably know at a foundational level because they don't know these people personally, but like because they haven't seen it themselves or they haven't seen the actual damage that they've done themselves, then it's easier to ignore it. Whereas Trump is very forward in his racism. He's very, and he uses it as a tool essentially. So yeah.
I think that it's like they know, but they always associate it with, that's another politician. It's not the politician I support. It's not this guy that I support. It's this other person. It's always Newt Gingrich, or it's Trump, or it's somebody else. It's never
they expect,
you know some of the people who they love.
They expect for white politicians to cause harm to them, and they go in and they vote for the least amount of harm. And the more open that the harm is, the more tolerant they are of it. And if you're talking about like the Bernie Sanders shit, I forget who said this. It was Irami Ose Frimpong. And he said, older Black people looked at Bernie Sanders in the same way that middle-aged white people looked at Marianne Williamson. Like, you are on a different planet from the life experience that I'm having right now. And like that sound, all this stuff that you're talking about sounds utopian or whatever. And you know, I like it. You sound nice, but let's be real. America is a racist country that enacts racist policies, and our job as Black people is to mitigate the overwhelming racist whatever that comes through. None of them are like, oh, and I want a just policy and them unbending on this. Not none, but not enough.
But it's odd that you say that, because I mean, even socialism as a whole was introduced to the Black community through the Panthers, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur. Like those people were organizing using that as a tool. So it's
not popular in the Black community, like in an overwhelming sense. The Black Panther Party did not hold the psyche of Black America. Like in that sense, Angela Davis is an academic and an intellectual. She's not like the most like the political will of Black America expressed through Angela Davis.
I mean,
she is Black, but like, I would say like if Angela Davis and Bill Clinton ran an election today, like, and only Black people voted, do you think Angela would beat Bill Clinton?
Well, I mean, back in her day before she was an academic, I mean, she was wrongfully accused of illegally, I don't know if it was illegally owning a gun or whatever, but it was during the time when Reagan was governor in California. And I think for a lot of older Black people, they have her prison interview in their mind, and they have her in their mind as someone who's been screwed over, who was almost screwed over by the justice system, but got out. And although Assata Shakur may not be popular, you know, she was seen as someone who was wronged by the justice system. I mean, even if you, it doesn't have to be them either. It could be Fred Hampton, who was organizing out in the Midwest. I mean, it's not, I feel like
there's no shortage of sympathy for those people. And in the same way that there's not like active dislike for Bernie Sanders or name any left-wing politician. But if you actually get into the questions of political power and who you vote for and what policies you demand, when you make that list, they start going, well, get real. We have to get realistic. They'll nod your head when you talk about any of these things. They'll be like, yeah, yeah. Stokely Carmichael, whatever, whoever you want to name. But like when it comes down to, okay, now knowing this information, what are you going to do? That's when, you know, we got to vote, and it stops there.
Well, I feel like it just comes down to, we kind of have two camps in the Black community, and we kind of always have. We've always had kind of more, and I mean, go back to the Booker, what was it, the Booker T. Washington days and W.E.B. Du Bois. We've always had one camp which has been kind of more, well, let's kind of go along to get along, and let's kind of just, you know, incrementalism, just a little bit at a time, you know, because we don't want them to kind of beat us upside the head. And then you have the other side who's like, no, we need to push, we need to fight for more, we need to organize, you know, whatever we need to do, we need to push for these things because we're being treated second class. And you guys are saying, please, 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 please. And they're like, please is not getting us anywhere. And if we look at where we are currently to this day, all that please, 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 please still has us in the same place.
And to be fair, you know, these are the people who are going to face the brunt of whatever comes down the pipe. So if somebody wants to get hit with a shtick that's not as sharp, and that's like the thing that consumes their psychology or whatever, it's hard to like blame them. You know, they've seen more of America than we have, just as a matter of, you know, numbers or years or age or whatever. And that obviously shapes your expectations and what you've seen. But like, I wish people could see that, like, we're seeing things now that you've never seen before. I say that all the time. History is not always a determinator of what happens. Things happen that are unprecedented all the time. I don't even have to give examples. You can name 5 off the top of your head. that happened just the last 10 years. Unprecedented shit happens all the time, and I wish the people who are voting for Joe Biden could think about that and had thought about that like 6 months ago, because we could be on track for a completely different political situation right now.
I mean, once upon a time, Donald Trump being president was this outlandish thing, and it was considered like something like unprecedented. But in reality, it was something that was very
When that
predictable.
when
So
that dude came down the escalator and said Mexicans are rapists, I said he's going to win the nomination. I said I'm not sure whether he'll be president, but I said he's going to beat the rest of these people because he understands like what's at the heart of being a Republican more than these other people who have like a layer of like money men between them and the voters. I was like, Jeb Bush is not going to beat that guy. There's not a way. I wasn't sure whether he would win because, you know, he puts his foot in his mouth all the time. And when he said that, you know, I go in there, I grab him by the pussy, I thought, well, white women will see themselves in that. They'll think about their own relationship with their boss, you know, the people in their life that they have silently resented and want to lash out at. And even though they don't like Hillary, they'll bite the bullet and they'll keep that particular guy out. Turns out I was wrong. I was overly optimistic. They were like, yeah, do that, but it won't be happening to me personally. So you can, I guess I overrated the solidarity that would come with that particular group and age demographic. Because they were like, yeah, do it to some other women. Go for it. I don't even live in DC. I don't care.
it's easy, like I think mentally, to distance yourself, like especially women who haven't experienced, sexual assault or have had to deal with harassment in the workplace. It's easier to say, oh, maybe, he does that to women who wear certain types of clothes or do things they shouldn't be doing, or maybe she should just stay home. She doesn't want to deal with that kind of thing, It's easy for some people to separate themselves from that kind of language and say that wouldn't happen to me. And I honestly, like, in terms of like thinking he could, when he first ran, I was like, he's just running to get his name out there. And then he won the nomination, and I was thinking, okay, well, Bernie still has a chance. If Bernie goes against him, he'll win. And then when Hillary won, I was like, this guy's going to be president. I like everything that had to happen for him to get there aligned, and it's because honestly it's because of the political elite, and it's because of the economic elite that allowed that to happen. They allowed him to get that far. They gave him a platform, and of course there are people out there who were already angry at the situation because people have been losing money since the beginning, like even before Obama came into power. Like the middle class has been shrinking, and so it's easy to blame immigrants, and that's what Trump did. I mean, he put the blame of their situation on the less powerful, and it worked for him because the way the electoral college is set up, and just yeah, it's
Hey, did either of y'all vote for Hillary Clinton?
I voted green. But I live in New York, so it was going to go for her anyway.
I was in Florida. So I felt obligated. It was gut-wrenching, but I did vote for Hillary. But my theory on it, why Trump won, is a little bit different. I think the reason why Trump won is not so much dealing mostly with Trump. It's a lot more to do with Hillary. And a lot of people are going to try to say, oh, it's all about sexism. It's not about sexism. It's some of the things which, under Bill Clinton, those skeletons latched onto her, regardless. It's kind of like if they came out that Obama really if more people believed, some of like Obama droning innocent civilians, and then it was horrific and the media looked at it negatively, and then Michelle ran unfairly, that's going to be kind of looked at always. And I feel like some of those things, and especially since a lot of people felt like she had a lot of hand in what was going on in the White House, like she had a lot of say-so in decision making. And so there are plenty of people that felt you're going to get her in there
Do you?
and you're going to have some of the same issues that they felt negative about him, and
Sure.
some of the other corruption issues which people felt.
But that's all true. But you know what? Bill would have beat Donald Trump.
Yeah, because Bill's a better politician. He's more likable. Hillary at the same time, she had tons of just terrible statements that she said that
Bro,
rubbed people the wrong way. And
more than
Bill
any,
Clinton, he was at least a lot better back in the day at being able to keep it together.
more than anything else, the thing that was really my stumbling block with Hillary Clinton was that entire 2008 primary. Because it's so funny that this is swept under the rug now in discussions about Hillary Clinton. She ran like the most openly racist campaign since the 60s against this dude. And I am not a person that just like, you know, you got your hair cut the wrong way, racist, you watched the wrong TV show. But like, just in terms of the fucking dog whistling, and in turn, like, I was not totally shocked, but I was shocked by like how bad that was. And like, I was like, am I going to reward this person 8 years later? Now, knowing, and if you really want to know how Hillary Clinton feels about you, vote against her, because that's when she starts to get, when she is being denied power, she gets candid. So when she was denied power, she got very candid about her relationship to black folks. And in terms of Obama, couldn't wait to stab Obama in the back. And I don't say this as a person that, you know, Obama, my king, Obama. However, this dude beat you and then appointed you Secretary of State, which is really effectively the most powerful position in the government that you can be appointed to, short of maybe Supreme Court Justice, but maybe not, because Supreme Court, you're 1 of 9, and Secretary of State, you are basically the president's voice overseas, which is the area where the president has the most power, right? And as soon as Obama's poll numbers went down, she started criticizing him from the sidelines. Whenever he had it rough, she was like right there with the knife. So I'm like, if this person can't be loyal to Barack Obama, who had no reason to put her into that position and gave it to her out of just his internal conciliatory nature, I don't trust her to defend it. Poor people if the numbers go down. I don't trust her to stay out of a war if the numbers go, blow this group of people up. I don't expect her to help immigrant communities when America notoriously turns on immigrant communities at the drop of a hat. What am I getting at it? So, you know, I voted to stop Trump, whatever. And of course I'm in Georgia, so Trump was going to win anyway. But I was like, look, I'll go and I'll fucking put my name on the ballot and do all this civic duty, whatever. Trump ended up winning anyway.
Yeah.
And
we have a comment from
what do you got?
Carter 600. Carter says, "Are any of you three voting for Trump?" And my answer is, I'm not voting at all.
Fuck no, I'm not voting for Trump. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Is this this must be like a one of these Periscope trolls that are like, what do you do when Trump wins? Trump 2020 MAGA. Like, and by the way, I feel like maybe these are bots or something. I don't know. But no, I'm not voting for Trump.
But think about those liberals out there who are like, you're either for Biden or you're for Trump, and when they hear like, oh, you're not voting for Biden, then you're everything you do, like you vote green, you vote libertarian, you're supporting Trump. And I'm just like, no, like maybe I want to vote green because I want third parties to have a little bit more funding, and if they get to a certain point in the polls, then they'll get a little bit extra funding, you know, from the federal government. It's like,
I'm like, y'all don't know where I live if you think that my vote matters as far as Trump winning or losing. I live in probably about 98% Latino community in California. Trump, I mean, me voting for Trump would make no damn difference, or Biden would make no damn difference. California is going blue for Biden regardless. So.
Yep. And I'm in Georgia, and 99% is going to Trump anyway. I suppose there's a small chance that if Trump does something wild the week before, it could flip the other way. But Georgia's an extremely Republican state. They make some noises once in a while. It's a little like New Jersey for Republicans. like every once in a while, Republicans go to New Jersey, they're like, and nothing happens. Like, no, thank you. It's same in Georgia.
I look at. I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
well, I look at voting for Trump for like most black people. That would be like trying to go and pick that rebellious like boyfriend or girlfriend that your parents can't stand that you know is bad for you just to piss them off. I mean, Trump is not going to deliver any damn thing for us. So all it would be doing is to get back at the Democrats who were pissed off at. So
Well, there are some people
neither
who
would help us.
there are some people who will just vote for their wallet. There's some black people that are doing good.
Well,
They're like, look, keep these tax cuts coming. I'm doing good. Fuck the rest of y'all. Got my money. And those people will vote for Trump. And most of them won't talk about it. Like they're not gonna, unless they're trying to get a career as a Twitter conservative commentator or whatever. But y'all all know one black person that owns a small business and they're low key supporting Trump. And they're like, don't they don't want to argue with you about it, but they don't give a shit. Like,
I feel like they're like it must be easy to just become like a conservative commentator if you're black because it doesn't seem it feels like you don't even need a background for it. You just need to say the right things or
it's a lot. I don't know whether they'd make money off it, but like it's a lot easier to get these Twitter followers. Like I've just seen so many black randos that are like MAGA and they have shit content and like they've got 35K. I'm like, all bots or what? What's happening? And I guess once you do that, you write a book or you start selling supplements or whatever. It's kind of funny. Like right-wing Twitter is pretty large. Like in terms of,
I can tell you how it gets that way. I mean, I've got to see it kind of up close and personal. I won't say the person's name, but I know someone and their child. I won't say the gender. I'll say their child, almost adult age, joined one of the conservative groups, and there's all kind of funding networks set up if you want to get into this platform and do this, and so there's all kind of platforms set up, and there's all kind of money allocated for them to get in, and so if you're pushing the message which they want to hear, then yeah, it's easy to do it, and then they will promote your name. And so you get those TPS, USA and all this Turning Points and all these groups like that. They'll help promote each other around and boost. That's how they boost a lot of your numbers up. And then that's when the ad revenue money starts coming in. So it is a little racket which they run. And it's an AstroTurf way to get out young people who supposedly are Republicans to kind of sway more people to Republicans. But we all know it's only really a couple of things that Republicans are doing for you. If you're a little bit more wealthy and you're going to have some tax cuts, then yeah, you'll benefit. But for the rest of us, it's middle fingers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on what Marcus said real quick. I mean, it feels like those black commentators, they're there to make white people feel safe and feel like, okay, well, there's a black person who was also saying, what I think, so I don't have to change. It's another problem. It's something else.
White people are just like that in general across the political spectrum. I mean, we could potentially say that's human nature, maybe not, but especially like white people are especially like that with any minority. They just like, yeah, this one.
Because I don't know any black people that follow like Herman Cain, like Candace Owens. Like it's not for us, and you guys aren't for us. You're for somebody else, and it's not us.
I know one old black person that would talk about what Herman Cain was doing, but even they didn't take Herman Cain that seriously. Like they would listen and they would repeat his conspiracy theories or whatever. But I don't think that they voted for Trump. Some black folks are just like ideological mishmash and they just believe in any weird stuff. We talk about that.
I can give you a little insight to some black people who I knew who liked Herman Cain, and it's because they liked him before they really knew about like a lot of his politics, so they were open to hearing him. Growing up in Kansas City, Herman Cain used to be a big deal in that area, because he was the president of Godfather's Pizza, and their headquarters was there at the time. Well, and so is Pizza Hut, which a lot of people don't know, and a couple other unusual facts. But that's a whole nother story. Anyway, he was head of like Black Chamber of Commerce and a bunch of different organizations throughout Kansas City, and so he rubbed elbows with a lot of people in the community, and so he was well known. And you know how when you get a name, your name gets out there, and people just remember, oh, that's Herman Cain from the whatever, and they
Yeah.
attach on to
Ben,
you, and they don't think about what you're actually talking about or how ridiculous it might be.
Ben Carson, also kind of the same. And in fact, maybe a little more positive than Herman Cain. Just kind of known, if you're an older Black person, as a Black success story. Ben Carson. And it's just when he got into politics, we were like, what is happening here?
Mhm.
Y'all, I got to roll out. I'm glad that I could take up the bulk of this time with you. I got a hard out at 6, but I love hanging out, being in fellowship with y'all, and chopping it up once a week or two. And I hope that continues. This is, I believe, my last week as Atlanta DSA chair. So that's something
Oh
cool.
wow.
I'm
Wow.
looking forward to getting some rest and relaxation. But it's a very good organization. If you live in Atlanta, we do all this. We do all the work. So it's cool. Thank y'all for having me on, and I'll hopefully see y'all next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for joining us again. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. And I guess we're getting close to the last couple of minutes.
Yeah.
We'll run it to an hour, kind of almost perfect timing. How it's coming out. I was wondering on just after the election, whether it's Trump or it's Biden, there are certain things that are still going to be going on and that we're still going to be dealing with, and we're still going to have all the foreclosure issues. We're still going to have the unemployment issues nationwide. We're still going to be dealing with the whole COVID thing, and then we
Yeah.
haven't even talked about how they're addressing like actually going back to school and how they're going to do this social distancing and regulating mask wearing and all that. And I'm just like, everybody is so just thinking, oh well, just November and Trump. If we get just Trump's out of there, and a switch is going to be flipped or something, and everything is going to be a brand new day. And I'm just, I'm sitting here like, I don't know where everybody else is at, but I don't see things the same way. I mean, what do you think?
I think that people are going to try to continue doing the same thing until it hurts them. And that's why people are trying to open up schools again. It's just like they need their workers out there and they don't need them in their houses taking care of their kids. So that's why they're opening up schools, whether or not there's a risk of coronavirus. So things are definitely need to change in terms of like the work week, because we now know that people are able to work from home and people are able to do the amount of work that they need to do in a shorter amount of time. So that's something that really needs to be looked at. Um, I guess this is something that's big in New York, and it's like how real estate is going to be used, because we now know that people don't have to go into offices in Midtown. You know, do these companies still want to have these locations that are costing them money for rent and things when their workers can work from home from their computer? And if they decide that that isn't a necessity anymore, then there's a lot of new real estate that can open up that can be used to deal with things like homelessness. So we need to reimagine everything, and it's exciting to think about the possibilities, but the issue is people at the top don't want things to change so drastically. you know um, High real estate prices means more money for the city of New York to take in terms of property taxes. Yes, but because everything is so expensive, the people who live here are being gentrified out. So I feel like we can reimagine, but if we're not being heard, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we can have these ideas and we can have these talks that we're listening to, but if higher ups aren't, then that creates another issue.
I mean, you're exactly right there, and that's what I've been trying to figure out. how can we get people to reimagine things and be more, I mean, think bigger than what they thought before instead of just always thinking about mitigating the damage. For instance, um, even if they do overturn Roe v. Wade, here's something which is unique in certain states. For instance, the state of Kansas, within the Constitution, abortion is written into the Constitution. So, per state's right, they would still be able to argue to say, no, you can't do that. Now, what they've done is they've used a bunch of regulations to shut down clinics and do whatever they want to do. But per the Constitution, they cannot abolish it and get rid of it. And so, what I'm saying is, people who are advocating, or especially the strong advocates who that's one of their top issues that they're out there protesting in the streets for, maybe that's an avenue which they could try to look towards, how they could push their state constitution to be ratified in ways to try to work on some of those things. That way, if things are overturned on the federal level, you still have a pushback on the state level.
I mean, it's good to have that state and local pushback, but the fact of the matter is, like Roe v. Wade and like abortion, we're at a point where it's like this shouldn't be questioned anymore. More than a majority of people feel like that this is a resource that women and people need, you know, and the fact that all it took was one judge who was almost 90 dying, it's ridiculous that, you know, that's all it took for this to be at risk again, you know. So if we're going to be challenging systems, it's great to have it like in a place in New York. It'd be great to have something like that. But what about women in Texas? What about women in Oklahoma who need those things too? Like they need it just as much as I do, you know. So they should have the same access that I have if they want it. I mean, that should be our whole view of being pro-choice, is whether or not you agree with it, let someone else who needs it have that. You don't have to have it, let somebody else have it, you know? So if we're going to be questioning the structure of anything, we need to question the entire structure of our government, and not, I'm not saying like abolish everything, although there's certain things that we should be abolishing. But I'm just saying, question everything, reimagine everything. It's like anything is possible.
Well, I just look at it more of, I guess, kind of like a backup in case, because in case Trump gets in there or they decide to do whatever, or you know, and it gets out of our control.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure, you know, so that you don't, so we're not completely caught with no kind of, you know, you don't want to be caught completely like in the corner with no defense. You want to at least be able to have a shield or something, some kind of extra layer, so that you're not completely vulnerable. And I feel like that's kind of been more my approach to try to figure out what kind of things can we work on the state, local, maybe even just county level, because I feel so much of the federal government is so corrupted that it's nothing's getting through. So it's just going to continue whichever way it goes, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden. I mean, we're still going to be in all these other countries. We're still going to be bombing everywhere. There's still going to be slavery going on in Libya, things like that. I mean, all of these things are still going to continue. Yeah. And my thing is, if we can't stop some of these horrific things which are happening on the federal level, then, you know, maybe we can try to see what we could try to do to start building up our own stockpiles, so it makes some of the stuff on the federal level even null and void to even have to deal with. I mean, I know we can't do it on everything, but I just, you know, thinking about that as an approach, kind of a direct action approach.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with you, but I'm also thinking like long term, you know, like if like progressives have never really been. Well, we have been in the offense, but in terms of like national politics, it just feels like we've always been playing defense. Mm-hmm. And it's just like at some point, we're going to get to a point where we can't keep playing defense. We have to be offensive, you know. And
well, I definitely want us to be offensive.
Yeah, of course. I mean, wouldn't we all? But apparently, our current um, liberal leadership, um, that isn't really their tactic.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm hoping that this progressive like feeling, this progressive like movement continues past November. Um, I guess one thing that would help that is having Donald Trump in office because you know he's pushed people to be active. Like he's made it so that even liberals can't just be quiet. We're all angry about what's going on. I mean, we know that there are now children in these concentration camps, which were built under Bush and Obama, but somehow this is just now that we're getting, we're hearing about it, So
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point there. It's almost kind of like, somebody took all our garbage and put it out on the front lawn. And so now you can see it outside the window when you look out, and now you're irritated and want to do something about the garbage. But what a lot of Americans want to do is just put the garbage back around the side of the house and act like it's not there.
I mean, yeah, they want to go back to politics as usual. And I don't think most of us in the Black community don't have that comfort because politics as usual is usually detrimental to us.
Mhm.
So, to those of you who that doesn't apply to, like, things will never be the same. We can never have politics as usual because then we're going to have someone who is as racist, as xenophobic as Trump, but is going to be smarter about it and is going to be even more detrimental because he knows how to, or he's going to know what he's doing. He's going to be more competent, and it's going to happen. Like
This
it's not. Yeah, I think honestly the Republicans didn't have that formula before Trump, but now they're seeing, how Trump works and how he speaks candidly. He claims not to use a teleprompter in a lot of places he doesn't use it and he just speaks ad lib and it works for him. And I think that there are going to be more politicians that follow that blueprint and it's only going to go down from here. Like there's never going to, like, this is a post-Trump world. Things have changed. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better if you put Biden in office. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll let you have the last word. What do you have going on? What other projects? I know you said that you've been trying to focus on the employment surge, and what else do you have going on?
Honestly, just the employment surge there. Like I've talked about the other things that I've been trying to do, like reading articles about our position here in America and our position in history in America, specifically through looking at people like Sally Heming, who dealt with a lot of traumatic and horrific things by the hands of the founding father that is just has been mostly ignored, and it's like that says a lot about our position in this country, how much of our history has been ignored, how much of our place in this country's founding has been ignored. And yeah, so that's really what I want to work on as soon as I get a paycheck. So
Well, I advise take a look at my live stream that I did last night on my other channel. In that one, I kind of go into a couple of controversial topics. Warning to anybody who decides to go and check it out. But I go into talking about the Arab slave trade, about the Silk Road slave trade, which a lot of times we don't talk about, which the Arab trades led into the transatlantic slave trades because they were the ones who started it as a system, which turned it over to the Portuguese and Spanish eventually, and then the Dutch. And
wow.
so they were doing a lot of the actual gathering of the slaves. So some of it was from flat out kidnapping. Some of it was raiding villages. Some of them would be they would grow certain things in certain areas and then leave and stay out and then let them move into that area. And once they moved into that area, then come and capture them all. And
Mm.
so it was just all kind of different tactics that the Arabs used. And I mean, There's a couple of videos which I'm probably gonna dive deeper into it and show like videos of where I can't remember. I think it was Nigeria, Uganda, a couple other places where they're saying they're sorry for what they were doing, back in those days. So I mean, it's very interesting because in America, a lot of times we focus on the 1619 slavery, and we don't focus on wow the roots of it even deeper than that and how it got to what it became and how do we and you start digging into those roots, it gets into some touchy waters with some people.
And this is on the same YouTube channel that this is
This is on the political matrix.
on the political matrix. Okay.
And you know what? In
Cool.
fact, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, please.
I'll send you the link. But yeah, in that one, I kind of because on that channel, I've been trying to look at the system in a different way, and on that channel, I try to challenge every single thought and belief that I've always grown up to have and start actually going through and researching and seeing what I find. And
Mm.
as I've been doing that, I've been coming to some different beliefs and some different ways of seeing the world. And I'm not going to go into all of it in there because I don't want to run my audience off too much. The little bit of audience that I've been able to still accumulate, dealing with all the YouTube and Twitter bans and all that stuff like that. But I'm still going to always try to put the word out and I'm always going to try to have a platform for people to speak about the issues that are going on. So, as long as we're trying to be positive and look for, brighter solutions, I'm all about it.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, I'll send you that link, and then after that, if you want, I'll give you some more of the videos that I have that led to some of that research.
Yeah, no, let's start out with the video because I'm really interested in learning more about that. And yeah,
Because
let's
this
do
will just
that.
touch on a ton of different things, and it's much giant stuff that I can put into that compact because it's so much information. But
Yeah, it sounds like
a
a rich topic.
it'll be a good starting point though,
Mm.
especially digging because the Arab slave trade and even the Assyrian slave trade, which is not talked about, because the Assyrian slave trade is very, very brutal. And in the Assyrian slave trade, there's actually a lot of their tablets that they carved that you can see the people, you see the faces, they talk about customs and traditions, and that's where it gets a little. So I'll leave it at that. This has been what I've been thinking. I am your host, Marcus Cage. This has been the lovely Harut here, lending her voice and her opinion, and Brandon Buchanan, who was with us earlier. Please make sure to tune in next week. I'm still going to try to work out the time, and I'm trying to work out the interview to have my close friend Mac Dre, who runs his own channel. Or sorry, Dre Mac, that's the musician. And Dre Mac will be on talking about a lot of some of these same issues and talking about some of the political issues that are, from my hometown in Kansas City. So hopefully you all have a wonderful week, that you keep on striving and pushing for, positive change and organization. That has been, what show am I even on? I do so much, I get so confused. But yes, what I've been thinking, Black Young Leaders Forum. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.